Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's the 3rd of April. As I was preparing for today's show, I kept thinking about this quote from John Burrows. It goes like this: "One's own landscape comes in time to be sort of an outlying part of himself. He has sowed himself broadcast upon it, and it reflects his moods and feelings. He is sensitive to the verge of the horizon. Cut those trees, he bleeds. Mar those hills, and he suffers." Think about your own landscape. If it is an outlying part of yourself, what does it reflect about your mood and feelings? Controlled and manicured? Wild and woolly? Unsure or confused? Where are you at today? Where were you a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Where do you want to be this season? We're not static. As my young son said to me the first time he ate spaghetti sauce on his noodles, "People can change, Mom. We are not static, and our gardens aren't either." Here's today's brevities. Naturalist, poet, and philosopher John Burrows was born today on a dairy farm in 1837. Called John O'Birds for his special admiration for birds, Burroughs loved the natural world. One of the Four Vagabonds, a reference to an annual camping group that included Harvey Firestone, Henry Ford, Teddy Roosevelt, and John Burroughs. Burroughs drove a Ford, which was an annual present from Henry Ford. Nice, huh? John Burroughs wrote about what he knew and loved best, the land around his homes in the Catskills of upstate New York. The area included a stream known as the Papacton, and today it's simply known as the East Branch of the Delaware River. Burroughs was great friends with Walt Whitman, whom he loved dearly. Of Whitman, Burroughs reflected, "Meeting Walt was the most important event of my life. I expanded under his influence because of his fine liberality and humanity on all subjects." Whitman gave Burroughs a little marketing advice on his first book, Wake Robin. Burroughs recalled, "It's difficult to hit upon a suitable title for books. I went to Walt with Wake Robin and several other names written on paper. 'What does Wake Robin mean?' he asked. 'It's a spring flower,' I replied. 'Then that is exactly the name you want.'" Wake Robin is the common name for trillium. Trilliums are in the lily family. They carpet the forest floor in springtime. In the late 1800s, the Tennessean and other newspapers actually advertised English Wake Robin pills. They were 25 cents per box. Here's the beginning of Wake Robin by John Burroughs. "The dandelion tells me when to look for the swallow. The dog-tooth violet, when to expect the wood thrush. And when I have found the wake robin in bloom, I know the season is fairly inaugurated. With me, this flower is associated not merely with the awakening of the robin, for he's been awake for some weeks, but with the universal awakening and the rehabilitation of nature." The third woman to enroll at Berkeley's medical school and the second woman to be professionally employed as a botanist in the United States, the intrepid Kate Brandegee, died on this day in 1920. After getting her MD at Berkeley, she found starting a practice too daunting. Thankfully, her passion for botany had been ignited during med school. She'd learned that plants were the primary sources of medicine, so she dropped the mantle of physician to pursue botany. 5 years later, she was the curator of the San Francisco Academy of Sciences herbarium. She personally trained Alice Eastwood. Kate was a phenomenal mentor. During her time at the Academy, in a surprise development at the age of 40, Kate had fallen insanely in love, as she told her sister, with plantsman Townsend Brandegee. Equally yoked, their honeymoon was a 500-mile nature walk, collecting plant specimens from San Diego to San Francisco. Their collecting trips, often taken together, but sometimes individually, would be their lifelong passion, and they traveled through much of California, Arizona, and Mexico, at times using the free railroad passes afforded to botanists. Despite poor health, Kate loved these experiences. In 1908, at the age of 64, she wrote Townsend a letter. "I'm going to walk from Placerville to Truckee." That was 52 miles. In 1906, when the Berkeley Herbarium was destroyed by an earthquake, the Brandegees single-handedly restored it by giving the school their entire botanical library, including many rare volumes, and their plant collection, which numbered some 80,000 plants. Thanks to Townsend's inheritance, the couple was financially independent, but they were also exceptionally selfless. The Brandegees followed their plants and books to Berkeley, where Townsend and Kate worked the rest of their lives for free. Today's book recommendation and John Burrows medal winner is A Wilder Time, Notes from a Geologist at the Edge of the Greenland Ice by William Glassley. Other John Burrows Medal Award winners include Rachel Carson for her book The Sea Around Us and Aldo Leopold for A Sand County Almanac. Today's to-do is to add a magnifying glass to your garden tote. The best gardeners throughout history have looked closely at their plants, often using magnifiers of some fashion. Get up close and personal with your plants. Increase your intimacy with your garden. And as with every garden tool, you won't use it if it's not handy. So get it in the tote. I always like to end the show with something sweet, so here's one last memorable fact about trilliums. Most of the parts of the plant occur in threes. There are 3 broad, flat leaves, 3 petals to a flower, and 3 sepals. The part that enclosed the petals protects them in bud and then supports them in bloom. Well, that's it for our show today. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for The Daily Gardener Community on Facebook and request to join. And finally, a special thank you to my team at Podfly Productions, where my editor is Eric Begay.